Well, professionally, I'm Anthony Dias Blue, but most people call me Andy.
Andy? Okay. Well, for the purposes of this show, we're gonna keep it as Anthony as well, so you can keep your reputation intact there. Hey everyone, we're back again with a great new episode this week, but as usual, we have some news to go through first. There's a big congratulations in order to Blake Reiber of Bourboner, who the twins have finally arrived. So we're going to see Blake here probably in a few months, but he deserves a much needed rest while he goes and takes care of the new twins. So congratulations, buddy. We're looking forward to talking to you again soon. Another thing is that we've been talking about it now for 2 episodes, but we're going to talk about it again to keep it in front of your face. But just to know that the bands that are going to be at Bourbon and Beyond are going to be announced on Monday, April 16th. So make sure you go to bourbonandbeyond.com and you go and you see what bands are going to be there. You might even see our logo on there too. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Patreon shipments have actually gone out this week. Hooray, we finally got caught up. We've also done our giveaways, which you might have seen that we did for the months of February and March, and they consisted of tumblers, glassware, actually a bottle of Johnny Drum, and everyone's favorite blind samples. So make sure that if you want to support this show, you want to be a part of these monthly giveaways, go to patreon.com, help support this show. We've got new stuff. We've got bottle totes, patches, t-shirts. And just to give you a quick background, this podcast actually almost ended at the end of 2017 because I didn't really know what it was going to come of it. If it really wasn't for a lot of the people that were giving a lot of the great comments that were coming through Patreon, as well as everybody's donations that were coming through there, that's really what helped the motivation keep going. Patreon is a great way to help support the show while it's going, because as you can tell, we don't have any sponsors right now, right? So right now, while we're still searching for sponsors, this is something that helps keep the podcast going. So I want to say thank you everyone that has stuck with us, and you're going to have opportunity to get all this new stuff really soon as well. Today's show, we get an inside look at the San Francisco Spirits Competition, which is actually taking place this weekend. So when the best bourbon is announced on Sunday, you're going to know everything that went into the judging, and we dispel a lot of the myths that I even thought were a part of the San Francisco Spirits Competition as well. So Anthony Dias Blue does a good job of dispelling some of those and really giving a lot of transparency to this. Also, just to kind of give you an idea, a little bit of forewarning, sorry about there's going to be some audio cracking that comes partway through and again towards the end from Anthony's side. Sometimes we're just at the mercy of the bandwidth gods, and that's just the nature of what it is over Hangout. So hopefully just stick out with us. We kind of make it good in the middle and then get a little iffy towards the end as well. But make sure you are subscribing on our social media channels, following us there where we're posting what we're drinking. You can see all kinds of news or anything that we're talking about on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you do like what you hear, make sure you are subscribing to us on iTunes, YouTube, as well as Facebook, because that's where all the new episodes are going. And if you want every single episode beamed straight to your inbox, you're going to get an email first thing Thursday morning, 7 a.m., which is usually our releasing time. You go to bourbonpursuit.com, scroll down just a little bit, and you subscribe to the email button. Another thing is that I actually fixed the all podcast button on the website now. So if you go to bourbonpursuit.com, scroll down to all podcasts, it's not going to be in pagination format, and it's not going to try to load 140 episodes as soon as you click on it. So that's been fixed as well. Thanks again, and enjoy this week's episode.
Do you ever pour yourself a bourbon, swirl it around, and then start struggling to come up with tasting notes? And perhaps you're also looking for a good Father's Day gift idea. Well, you can now solve both with a kit from Knows Your Bourbon. And unlike other nosing kits on the market, Knows Your Bourbon kits feature real ingredients for the most authentic aromas. You can smell real Tahitian vanilla bean instead of some synthetic aroma that's just made from chemicals. So head on over to knowsyourbourbon.com and enter code BP10 for 10% off your order. From their bar to yours, Chad and Sarah of the popular YouTube channel It's Bourbon Night bring you their favorite at-home old-fashioned mix with the new Elemental Elixir's Golden Hour Syrup. It's a custom-made syrup with notes of bold black tea, warm spices, and orange zest. All you need is your favorite whiskey and ice. No bitters needed. One bottle makes 16 drinks, so that's only $1 a cocktail before you add your own whiskey. They can also be enjoyed in other cocktails or spirits, mocktails, coffee, tea, and anything you can think of. It's crafted locally in Lexington, Kentucky, and you can get your bottle now at whiskeyambitions.com.
Play Whiskey Wednesday, Round 11, the memory game. Until June 26. Each week, you can win one of our 12 incredible grand prizes. Select $2 at checkout. And if they match on drawing night, you'll win that bottle. Not a match? No worries. You still score a Weller 12-year. Every $5 ticket gives you 5 chances to win, including 4 weekly bonus prizes. Get your tickets now at give270.org. Charitable Gaming License ORG 0002703.
Ed Bly and Rising Tide Spirits are back again with a new release of Old Stubborn Bourbon. And this release of Old Stubborn is a premium hand marriage of 10, 11, and 12-year cask strength, barely filtered pot still bourbon. It comes in at a staggering 123.8 proof. And the flavoring grain for this one, which the last one was wheated, but this time it's now rye. Rich, sweet, and bold with a long finish that's sure to be another eye-opener. You can order online at Sealbox or thebourbonconcierge.com. And you can even purchase in person at Revival Vintage Spirits, and even now with very few select stores in Kentucky. You can get it now while you can, but be sure to do it because it's not going to last long. Always find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from at the lowest price, it's easy to find your favorite Cabernet or a new single barrel bourbon to try with some help from one of their friendly guides. And with every bottle comes the confidence of knowing you just found something amazing. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly and be 21.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Pursuit Podcast, the official podcast of bourbon. Kenny here today with a topic that has been top of mind that was actually a suggestion by one of our fans of the show. And they said, you know, when I go and shop at the stores at either Total Wine or my local liquor store, and you start walking down the aisles and you see these hang tags and they'll say, you know, best in show or bourbon of the year, received 2 gold stars. And you kind of look at it and you try to think, well, you know, like how big of a marketing play is coming into this? What does it really mean? And we've got somebody on the show that's going to help dispel a lot of those things because, you know, we've all been there before. You know, we've seen that at one point, you know, Eagle Rare was a double gold in San Francisco. And, but they keep touting it years and years and years later, right? Like, and we're going to try to figure out, like, what does that really mean? How long can they actually use it? Is it a designation at one point you get it, and then it's like a badge of honor, and you never have to take it off? So we're gonna get down to a lot of the nitty gritty of these questions because I think it's a lot of those things that people are generally curious about. They want to know more about the judging, what goes into it. There was a past episode before where we had Fred Minnick on the show, and we touched on it for about 5 to 10 minutes when we talked about barrel bourbon, becoming bourbon of the year at San Francisco. And we kind of talked about, you know, going through the blind and really how they were surprised about it. But this show is going to be completely dedicated to really figuring out all the nuances that are going into the competition, the judging, and really what do those key awards really mean. So today on the show, we have the executive director of the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, Anthony Dias-Blue. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Kenny. I'm happy to be here. We like to talk about our competition because it's the biggest. Mm-hmm. We like to think it's the best. We have right now, you know, right in the midst of entries coming in, and the competition this year is April 12th to 15th. So we're a couple of weeks out. We already have well over 2,000 entries, and we expect to better last year's. We had 2,400. We should have more than that this year.
Sounds like you'll have a little bit of palate fatigue going on.
Well, you know, we have a remarkable, I think the thing that makes our competition kind of stand out is that our judges are the top guys in the industry. Dale DeGroff, Dave Wondrich, Tony Abuganim. These are the guys who are the influencers and the most important people in the industry. So we have, I think, 32 or close to 40 of these guys, and they run the gamut from being big spirits buyers at hotels and things like that, or journalists, or we also have buyers from large markets like Safeway and Costco and so on. So it's a varied group, and they keep each other in check. So if you want to get down to how we do this judging.
Well, before we get there, let's kind of ease into it a little bit, right? So I got a few more questions to kind of preface that with. First off, talk a little bit about the competition in itself, like how many different categories are there? Are all the tastings done blind? Like kind of give an idea of what this all looks like.
I think there are over 70 categories, and they grow every year. I mean, all of a sudden we have something called barrel-aged gin, and so we have to add a category for that. It's remarkable, and it's also lots of fun, but it's hard work for these guys and girls. We have a lot of female judges, which is a great thing. And the idea is the products are presented blind. Now, what that means is that not only do they not know what they're tasting in terms of brand or the other nuances that might be involved, but the spirits are brought out on carts, kind of like a dim sum restaurant.
I'll take one of those, one of these.
Right. No, but they come out and they're in glassware already. Nobody sees a label. Nobody sees a bottle. Nobody comes out with the bottle wrapped in. I've been to competitions before where they come out with the bottle wrapped in foil or in a paper bag, and you can kind of get an idea of the shape of the bottle and the rest of that. We don't do that. This is for every panel, and there are something like 16 or 18 panels, depending on how many entries we get. The panels are either 3 or 4 people, and backing them up in the back of the house is a team of volunteers, maybe as many as 5, because there's somebody there are 2 guys or 2 girls and guys pouring. There are people who are bringing the stuff out. There are the panel coordinator who has a clipboard and takes the votes of all the judges. So it's a pretty complex operation, and it requires a lot of people. I say that every panel, including the judges, is close to 10 people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's quite a lot. I mean, and we already talked a little bit about. Actually, I want to talk about the judges a little bit, right? So. Okay. You had mentioned you get them from just different places. You get them from distributors. You get them from maybe stores. Maybe they're authors. Like, is there a certain criteria that you hold accountable for somebody to be chosen as a judge for the spirits competition?
Well, I think that they have to have demonstrated expertise. And there are a lot of people who want to come in and taste spirits, obviously. But these people are professionals who make their livelihood being critical of the spirits that come in front of them.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to figure out what kind of how much more do I have to church up my resume so you can select me for next year, right?
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
Probably better if you've judged at other competitions. If there are smaller competitions where people kind of hone their tasting abilities. I mean, most of my experience in judging goes back probably 37 years at this point, because I was on the original wine tasting competition that was started in San Francisco by the state of California. And over the years, we have, and with the spirits competition, which started in 2000, you get some bad apples now and then. You get people that, if you pardon the expression, get smashed.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have that. We have to, we can't have those people. And we get people that, are so unsure of their, we haven't had anybody like this lately, but I saw this in the beginning when we started these competitions. People that are so unsure of their taste buds that they give everything a bronze.
Mm-hmm.
So, we try to avoid that. I think that we've gotten to the point where we have absolutely fantastic panel of judges, all of whom are very experienced, and we're not losing that many judges, and we're picking up a couple every year because we've grown in size. But those are carefully selected, and Tony Abugaman, who is the chief judge and is very involved in the industry, is a key player in selecting the new judges.
Mm-hmm. All right. So quick question. I kind of want to move to a little bit about bourbon, and then we'll talk about some of the bottles that are submitted and stuff like that. Are you yourself, a bourbon guy, or are you kind of just, you kind of oversee the direction of everything?
I've become a bourbon guy, since this has been going on. I was always a Scotch guy, but I found that I was really liking some of these high-end bourbons. I mean, when I was the social chairman of my fraternity in college, we drank a lot of bourbon, but it was really not the best. It was.
You're saying they weren't submitting it to spirit competitions?
The worst. Yeah. It was based on price only.
Yeah.
So, you get a case of, I'm not going to mention a brand, but
yeah,
you get a case of this stuff, and there's a 13th bottle for the social chairman.
That's how it always works.
Yeah. So I definitely got experience with bourbon at that time, but I never really, it's only been in the last 20 years or so that we've had these really high-end, long-aged, barrel-aged, all the rest of that. And it's exciting because the potential is just enormous. And we're seeing just spectacular products.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that, a lot of these, at least the ways the bourbon rules that are happening, everybody's trying to experiment with a lot of different stuff. And it sounds like every year that, I don't know if it's probably getting harder to lump a lot of these in the same categories, and you're just having to expand, right? Like single barrel versus small batch versus refinished or rebarreled whiskeys versus finished and all that other kind of stuff.
We're getting bourbons that are aged in sherry vats and sherry butts, and we're getting bourbon that's aged in Cabernet Sauvignon barrels from Napa and that kind of thing. So it's exciting. I mean, especially with the craft movement exploding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet that. I mean, I'd just say it just seems like it's getting bigger and bigger. So that's probably something that is tougher just in your spot to try to sit there and figure out, well, how do we make this appeal to everybody? And if it's the best bourbon, well, it's actually the best bourbon finished in a sherry cask, right? Category, right. Or best finished bourbon, right? Yeah. So
exactly,
it's gonna be tough.
It is. I mean, and I think bourbon is one of the most exciting categories. There are others that are less. I mean, for example, I think rum is pretty moribund right now. There's not that much happening in rum. Gin is exploding. I mean, we the first year that we did this competition, we had 8 gins, and last year we had 350.
Wow. Yeah, that is.
Well, gin is being driven by the mixology and bartending group.
Mm-hmm.
Gin is a great cocktail spirit.
Yeah, it's very versatile. And so I guess another question you see is when you see like the awards that come out and people that win their golds, do you see bourbon is, because I mean, for us as bourbon consumers, we see that in front of our faces all the time when we are out shopping. Do you see bourbon as like one of those premier categories that utilizes this as a marketing engine, or do you see a lot of gin and vodka people doing it too? Like who do you think uses it to their advantage the most?
Bourbon is definitely, because the space is very crowded, and in order to stand out, it's important to have some element of superiority, and a gold medal is that.
Mm-hmm. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of the bottles that are given to you. I mean, a lot of them, are they just like shelf bottles that you can pretty much get from a standard distributor, or are they choosing specific bottles and or barrels to actually submit that you hate to see it, right? To say like, this is our honey barrel, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be this specific batch, this specific barrel, and hopefully my brand can be on top this year. Like, what do you kind of see as that playing field? Is it level, or do people get the choice to submit whatever they want?
Well, it's level, but of course, if a product has been given a special treatment, we want to know about that, and it would go into a different category.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that, in wine, it's much more likely that there's some hanky-panky going on where they're submitting special products and not really labeling them and telling us why they're special, so that you get something like a $2 Chuck that wins a gold medal. And that's because I'm not going to say that Fred Francia would ever do anything that wasn't completely honest, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the other kind of thing is, you look at, do you see this as a space where it's a lot of the, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of the craft, the explosion of these smaller people that are trying to put themselves on the map, and you don't see things like Jack Daniels or anything like that that's number one bourbon in the world, number one whiskey in the world, or Evan Williams, or some of these are Jim Beam white label. Like a lot of these that are the top selling bourbons in the world, like they're probably not submitting, if I had to guess, right?
Well, I think Jim Beam does, but no. And I've had the distillers from Jack Daniels here in my office, and they, let's face it, they're the biggest selling whiskey in the world. Why would they submit and allow themselves for somebody to say, "Oh, yeah, that's a silver"?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because they probably know that's how it would be, but you're not going to sit there and take something that's working and take it away.
It's a lot better product than. It's a very good product. I mean, let's face it. But anyway, it doesn't help them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they got no medal, nobody would know that they'd entered. But why would they enter? I mean, there's really no. I mean, I'd love to have them enter, and we get in the Scotch category, we get Johnny Walker, all the iterations of Johnny Walker, so on. But it's and we get the Glenlivet and so on. But we have a third competition. We've got the spirits competition now. We've got the wine competition coming up at the end of June, but we also have a competition in New York. And I like to kind of. We've had this competition for a number of years, but I had a partner and I just bought him out. So now we have a competition in New York. And I would love to see that be the competition where the little guys can go and compete among themselves without having Johnny Walker hanging over their head, or Eagle Rare hanging over their head. It's a nice competition. It runs at the end of August. We've had about 800 to 1,000 entries, and so it's much smaller than the others. And I want to build it as the place where the little guys can go and not have to fear that they're going to be run over by a truck.
Right. And plus you're expanding your footprint, right? You're on both sides of the country at that point, right?
Exactly,
So that's awesome.
Exactly.
So I want to talk a little bit about the categories of the medals, right? You've mentioned bronze, silver, and gold. Like, talk about how those medals are awarded. What does that mean when you see a gold or a double gold? Like, is there a triple gold? Like, explain what these categories are and how you get to them.
Okay. I go back to the actual functionality of the competition. What happens is they get 12, 14 maybe at a time. We try not to get any much bigger than that as a flight. And they may be doing four or five flights, but 12 glasses come out for each judge. So the card has a line of 12, 12, and 12 for the three judges, or an extra line for the fourth judge. And the spirits are put out in front of them. They're labeled A, B, C, whatever, all the way through usually N, something like that. And then the judges take 15 minutes, no, maybe more like a half an hour to 45 minutes to taste they write their own notes. And when they're finished, the panel coordinator comes out with a clipboard and polls them. So the first judge might say, for spirit A, bourbon A, silver. The next guy says gold. The third guy says gold. Okay, at that point, with two golds and a silver, it gets a gold medal, a regular gold medal. But then the other two guys, and they're allowed to do this, will say to the first guy, well, what do you think? Could you actually come up to a gold on this one? And the first guy will either say no or yes. If he says yes, it gets a double gold, because all three judges have voted gold. That's how it works, and it's not that easy to get a double gold. It's really tough.
So that's good. We know about double gold. Is there any other ways that something fits in besides those? I guess four different levels of what they are, right? So bronze, silver, gold, double gold.
Yes. The judging takes place over 2 days, actually 3. I mean, a little bit on Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday. Sunday morning, we have the sweepstakes. We have every judge in the room, and the top bourbons in each category are brought forth, and they are judged against each other, so that we end up with the best bourbon over all categories. So what you have is you'll have the double gold winners from every single bourbon category vying for this position and being judged against each other. And it's exciting. It's really fun. I mean, Fred Minnick, he talks about this all the time, and he writes about it. He's one of our top judges, and I'm sure you've had him on your show a number of times. Everybody sits around at tables and they vote. It's by they have the spirits in front of them. I mean, sometimes they have 60 spirits in front of them, and we take them category by category: vodkas, gins, aquavit, right up the line until we get to bourbon, and there'll be maybe 6 or 8 bourbons for them to taste. So everybody tastes all of them, and they vote for the best bourbon. So it's very democratic. You have a lot of brilliant tasters judging these spirits, and many times the vote is pretty unanimous, or certainly lopsided in certain directions.
So another kind of question, going back to the gold and the silver thing, if so, say you had 2 judges did gold, 1 did silver, and you could try to convince them to bring it up. But what if it's like, say, 1 gold, 2 silvers? Is it still considered a gold?
That's, once again, that would be a negotiation. It would be a silver unless one of the other judges would move.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I'm assuming the same.
It's not that easy to get a gold medal.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we really wanted to find here, a level of transparency, right? Is to make sure that, what's the true meaning behind this, right? That not everybody that just submits is like, okay, well, just, we'll give them a bronze, or we'll just give them a silver. Like, welcome to the party, right? Yeah.
We noticed there's a higher percentage of medal winners in spirits than there is in wine. But, wine is an agricultural product. I mean, there's really they really have no control over things like vintages and soil types and all that kind of stuff that they have to deal with. So there's more. It's more the spirits business is more streamlined, especially since if you're going to bring a spirits to market, it's a very expensive proposition, and it better be damn good.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess another question to kind of go into this. I mean, it's great to know all the idea of, what sits behind here. Now, the other thing to kind of talk about is like when we go and we're walking around the bourbon aisles, and you see that sticker on the bottle, it says it was rated gold or double gold, but it doesn't have a date on the sticker.
Yes, it does have a date.
Okay.
And if you look at look at our magazine, which is the tasting panel, the spirits people who have won medals will put their medal in the ad, but it says on it.
It has to have the date. 2017,
2016. I mean, there are guys who won in 2011 that are still advertising it. We have no control over that, but the date is definitely on it.
Now, is it part of that stipulation that they have to always say the date when they are putting in sort of advertising or marketing campaign or material, just to make sure that, yeah.
Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point of sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. Shopify's point of sale is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. And with Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers in-line and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns, from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. And get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone. Transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system, or use Shopify's point-of-sale Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/bourbon, all lowercase, and go to shopify.com/bourbon to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bourbon. If you're anything like me, then you can't get enough about bourbon. And that's why I'm a subscriber to Bourbon Plus magazine. Bourbon Plus is a quarterly publication that tells the stories from the heart of bourbon, the farmers who grow the grain, the distillers who labor over the process, and the people like you and me who raise their glasses to celebrate it all. Subscribe to Bourbon Plus magazine today at bourbonplus.com, that's PLUS.com, and use code PURSUIT at checkout for $5 off your subscription.
Now, is it part of that stipulation that they have to always say the date when they are putting in sort of advertising or marketing campaign or material, just to make sure that,
if they're going to use the artwork, which is the metal itself, it has the date on it, and they can't mess with it. It has to have it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good to know. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, I guess if Eagle Rare was double gold back in 2011, I mean, assuming that 2011 double gold is maybe for that year. I mean, can somebody that is creating an Eagle Rare that's being released in 2018 and still say it's a double gold medal winner? Like, is it a forever kind of designation that Spirit gets?
It depends on their level of honesty.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they got a different product, then it needs to be adjudicated once again. Mm-hmm. It might be, they might have had rotten barrels one year or something. So it's important, and I think the consumer has to be aware of this and make sure that the product that they're buying is maybe the most recent in terms of its gold medal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess in your opinion, like, how would you want to see that happen? Would you rather see a lot of these producers have to continually maintain that gold medal status, and every year they have to submit and keep that there to keep using it in their marketing material? Like, what's if it was Anthony's perfect world, what would it look like?
I think that they would certainly have to enter every 2 years at least, just to bring it closer to the time. I mean, if I see a 2016 gold medal, that's okay. But if I see a 2009 gold medal, I'm kind of a little bit. I'm wondering what happened. Did they not get any medals the years after that? So mm-hmm. I think it's important that they enter at least every 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, do you see a lot of the time I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Like, the bourbon market is big, but it's not so big that it's like wine or beer that you could try a different bourbon for the rest of your life. You could try different wine or beer for the rest of your life and still not go through every single thing that's available to you in the world.
Because you've got every single wine has another vintage coming. Mm-hmm. The thing is with bourbon, it's a busy area right now, but if I don't know, I mean, what do you think? Maybe 40 or 50 really high quality bourbons in the market?
Something like that. I mean, I'd say that's probably a fair assessment, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's entering, but you're not going to have the high quality that's going to get to mass market here for a few more years, right? It still has to age in the wood a little bit more. It's got to get, as Fred Johnson always said, Mother Nature and Father Time still has to do its work.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, when I was kind of leading in with that is like, do you see a lot of the same, quote unquote, maybe different vintages? These bourbon whiskey products are being entered every year and judged independently by different judges.
There's always new stuff, and there's always new judges. We try to mix it up as far as what judging panels get, certain categories of bourbon and so on. It's like a new competition every year. I mean, it's like starting from scratch every year. Mm-hmm. And that's exciting.
So another question is, as a consumer themselves, how much weight should somebody put on their purchasing or buying decision when you see a gold medal on a whiskey bottle? Like, what should that really be telling you? Really, how much should it really influence your decision?
I think it depends on where that gold medal came from. I mean, somebody can make up their own competition and just say, "Hey, we got double gold medal at the Secaucus competition. I mean, I think where it comes from is the first thing you look at, and the fact that it's relatively current, and then go for it. I mean, there are other spirits competitions that have high standards, and they may be smaller. Some of them are, more specifically for things like tequila and gin and so on. But I think that just buyer beware, caveat emptor. Take a look at where the metal came from and when it was, and then go with that.
I'm going to take a hard left turn real quick because I probably forgot to ask this in the very beginning. Like, why start a spirits competition? Like what's the idea of doing this and not just letting things stand on their own merit when you sit there and walk by the shelves?
Well, I think that we
have alcoholics who are just so bored. We're like, hey, we're going to rate this stuff.
I don't want to get into the long history of how I started the wine competition, but that's been going on since 1980. And I think it's a service. I think it's a useful service to the consumer. If the consumer pays attention, it will tell you what's best, what you should buy, and especially if there's a price differential involved. It's very helpful. So I started spirits in the year 2000. We had 287 entries, and that's when we started to build our judging panel. I mean, there are guys who've been with me for 17 years judging spirits, and the people like Frosty, who is one of only four people in the world that's a master sommelier and a master of wine. We've got Dale DeGroff, who's probably the most famous bartender in the world. We've got Tony Abuganim. And these guys have been with me since the beginning. So that's the core, and that's how it has grown as more spirits are entered, and we've added more judges, but I think that we've kept the high standard. But anyway, to get back to your question, caveat emptor, just keep an eye on where the metals come from and when it was given.
It's good to know. Another thing, just in regard to transparency, just so people know. I mean, because I'm curious myself. I've heard other people say that competitions like these, it's a pay to play. You're submitting your stuff, you pay for it, and then whatever it is, like maybe you're paying for that bronze medal, you're paying for that gold medal. Can you kind of dispel that?
Yes, of course. I mean, that isn't the way it works. And although people have to pay an entry fee because we have huge expenses, we've got, at least 100 people involved in the competition, so they have to be compensated. But it's pay to play? No way. There are a number, and I'm not going to say what the number is, but there are a number of spirits that get nothing. Mm-hmm. And they paid, but they got nothing. So
take that for what it is.
Yes.
Dude, I mean, there's people, it's a funny question, because I was like, if they get nothing, what are their odds of re-entering the next year?
Maybe they'll improve the product. I mean, we don't list the losers as which is not a good term, but the ones that don't win, we don't list them. So it's up to them.
Yeah. So at that point, it's kind of like, it's like going into a soccer tournament and you're out the first round, right? You want to practice, you want to get better, and you're going to come back to the next tournament and try to put your best foot forward, right? Exactly. I mean, okay. So that's good to know, right? Because you've heard that all. I mean, I've heard it before. People say that you pay an entrance fee, and that's what you're basically paying for your metals, right? But it's good that you kind of have that level of transparency that we can put that out there. When we talk about submitting stuff too, a few people are asking, especially in the bourbon whiskey category, are people able to send single barrels, right? Something that are only going to have at most like 250 bottles that are ever hit the market. And we'll say on average, it's probably around 150, right? Is that still, is that allowed? Is that a particular category?
Yes. Yes.
And is that its own category to say that this is just a single barrel category?
It is.
Kind of give your thoughts on it.
I think that what we're looking for is excellence. We're trying to reward excellence at every level, and if it's 150 bottles, well, that's unfortunate, because if it's as good as we think it is, then only 150 people are going to be able to experience it. But still, it deserves to be rewarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, sometimes I don't know. I mean, for me, maybe it seems like a little bit difficult to award something that it's so narrow and it's only going to hit just a small segment of the market, right? So it's probably a little tough to do.
No question.
Mm-hmm. And are the awards, are they relative every year? Like, are you guaranteed anything for a particularly bad year, or is it, as you mentioned, like sometimes there's just nothing? It's just every year you're kind of like rolling the dice.
Yeah, but it's with spirits. It's a lot less mercurial than wine, because if you go through a bad vintage, all of the wines will be affected by it from certain areas and so on. But as far as spirits are concerned, it's but things change. There are a lot of variables involved. There's different judges. We move the spirits around from panel to panel. Certain judges don't taste the same things every year, so it's as they say, a crapshoot.
I mean, have you heard of any companies that, quote unquote, send honey barrels to a competition, right? Like they want to be able to make sure that one barrel goes through and it gets its gold designation, and then they slap it on every other barrel that's going to go out there to the market.
I haven't seen that, but there's if you're dealing with unscrupulous producers, that could happen, but we try to make sure that it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't really want to necessarily award bait and switch techniques, right?
No.
Right.
No, this is a straightforward, honest operation, and we try to keep it that way. And
so, have you ever been part of the bourbon category of judging or anything like that?
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm. Talk about like that. We had Fred talk and kind of give his thoughts on it. Like, talk about when you're going through and you're tasting these, because this is, one thing we love to talk about on the show is actually tasting blind and not letting labels or anything like that kind of influence your, your decision or what you're thinking. And then you're just, going through it. Kind of go. What's your mentality going into something that's, you got 12 whiskeys in front of you, you're doing all blind. Like, what are those things that you're looking for?
Well, what you're looking for is balance and elegance, and I mean, just a whole bunch of things. Smoothness, the length of the product in your mouth, and so on. I'm less of an expert than Fred. I mean, I don't think anybody is as much of an expert as Fred. I think that when he tastes, he can kind of pick out what he's tasting. I don't do that. I just go with it and try to find the optimum product.
Mm-hmm.
And and particularly in wine, sometimes it's a $5 wine, but picking what's best is, it's tough, but there are a lot of different variables that are involved.
Have you ever found that $5 wine that you were like, holy crap, this is good?
Yeah, which we actually gave Best in Show White one year to a Riesling from Wisconsin. That was $11. Needless to say, it was sold out within 3 days.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another question about like when you're sitting there and you've got 12 whiskeys in front of you, like, are you on a timer or on a clock and say like, we gotta get these done in an hour or 30 minutes? Like, what's the usual time frame?
It depends. We have judges that are very slow, and I have to say, come on, hurry it up. But it's no, you're not on a time frame. Everybody gets a chance to taste, and they get to think about each product. As I say to them at the beginning, people have paid their good money. They've taken the time to send these spirits in for us to judge. Give them the time and the amount of respect that's required. Every single product, even if it's cream liqueur.
I love those cream liqueurs. They're delicious.
I do, and I always get them. We get like 30 or 40 cream liqueurs. I mean, the spit bucket at the end of that looks like you can't believe it. But anyway, sure, they're legitimate products, and you have to judge them as such.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I guess I'll kind of take your, I guess throw another question at you. Like when you're judging whiskey, for me, when I'm sitting there tasting blind, I can go through 3 or 4 different ones and they've got those regular bourbon notes to them. They've got their caramel, toffee, oak, leather, spice, whatever it is. Right. And then sometimes you'll find one you're like, oh, that's got coconut. Or like that's got, this is like very buttery. Like it just stands out above the rest because it just doesn't fit that just traditional like chocolate, caramel, toffee profile, right? Like when you have something like that really stands out. I mean, is that somebody else has said marzipan because that's something that Fred always loves to talk about.
Yeah.
Is that one that you say, okay, this is going to move on to the next level?
Most likely. I think that complexity is a very important element of judging. And the ones that are kind of simple and down the middle of the alley and balanced and all the rest of that stuff, that's okay. But those tend to be a little bit more the corporate style, the large production. You get the ones that have these nuances of, as you say, coconut or extra chocolate or whatever. This is something to be rewarded because complexity is really important.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you on that. And so, is there a bad note? I guess for me, when I taste blind, basically, if it's corny or grain forward, I'm like, okay, that's bad in my opinion. Like in your opinion, and some of the other judges, like what's something that would necessarily would just be creeping up into like a bronze category?
Harshness.
Mm-hmm.
We use a special glass to taste. It's called the neat glass. Have you heard of it?
Yep, yeah. Sure have.
And the wonderful thing about the neat glass is when you put your nose in it. Here, I've got one right here. How about that? Hello.
Yep.
When you put your nose in this, you don't get that blast of alcohol or ethanol. It's much smoother because the alcohol goes off to the sides and you get the true essence of the product. I would suggest to everybody who's watching this that they go out and get themselves a couple of these, and if they're tasting at home, try this glass because it's remarkable. And we use it throughout. Tony and I, Tony's being the chief judge, and I, tasted every single kind of product in this glass and in the Riedel stand-up kind of tulipy shaped glass. And we found that the only product that was better in the Riedel glass was vodka. So we taste vodka in a different glass at the competition, but every other spirit is tasted in this.
Interesting. So I guess for anybody that is listening to audio only, go and Google neat glass, and you can see exactly what he's talking about. It's kind of got these wide curved edges a little bit. So
it's shaped like a pot still.
Yeah, that too. You can pick him out, right? Yeah. That's awesome. We got one last question to kind of do this before we wrap it up. When people are going through and they're judging, what are some of those palate cleansers that they're using to maybe go back and forth between different whiskey side by side, or to go and retaste it again a second or a third time?
We've always got sliced baguettes on the table. We've also always got kind of Munster cheese, the kind that comes in that big block. And they all volunteers cut it up into little squares, and there's that. What else? One of our judges kind of talked us into having Graver olives on the table, and that works. If we're tasting tannic wines, like big Cabernets and so on, we have slices of roast beef. In spirits, we don't do that.
It's all right. I like roast beef. Not a big fan of olives, but I can always give it a try. So, Anthony, I want to say thank you again for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure to really, as I said earlier, kind of get the transparency of what we're seeing through the spirits competition, really dispelling some myths, giving a better overview of what goes into all this as well, because I think some people just they either don't take it at face value, or they do take it at face value and they don't really know what it means. And so this was a great part of just educating people about, more about the competition and understanding, how medals are awarded, and at the end of the day, what can people do with those medals? So it was great to do that. If you've got anything to kind of wrap up about how people can learn more about the competition, what's the website, everything like that.
Okay, great. If they want to kind of look at the winners from last year, they're listed on there, and it's SF Spirits Comp.
Awesome.
BIRITSCOMP.com, and it's all there. There are profiles of every judge. There are the list of winners from last year, probably from the year before and the year before that. It's pretty comprehensive. I mean, we're always working on it. We're always trying to improve it. But right now, it's pretty user friendly, and it's pretty thorough.
Good deal. Well, Anthony, thank you so much. Make sure you go and you check out the website. The competition will be happening, as he said, in April. So make sure I'm sure that it doesn't really matter once the bourbon winner of the Spirits Award is announced, that everybody's going to find out about it, and it's all going to be cleared off the shelves. It's just usually what happens. So
yes, it is.
So make sure you go and you pay attention to that. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bourbon Pursuit. If you like what you hear, make sure you support the show. Patreon.com, patreon.com/Bourbon Pursuit. If you want all new episodes beamed straight to your inbox, go to bourbonpursuit.com. Check out San Francisco Spirits, then also check out Bourbon Pursuit. Sign up for the email list so you can get those beamed straight to your inbox. We always like hearing from our fans. If you've got any more show suggestions, exactly what this one was, people you want to hear from, make sure you send us an email. It's the duo, THEDUO @bourbonpursuit.com. And with that, we will see everybody next week.